Good morning everyone, my name is Nurul Patricia. I'll be your moderator for today. Now, I will introduce our panelists for today. We have Nadira Akila, CEO of HSBC, Farsha Mirza, CFO of HSBC, Nurin Alia, CEO of General Electric, YB Dania, Minister of Entrepreneur Development, and lastly we have YB Fatin, Minister of Finance. Thank you to all panelists for sacrificing their time to attend our forum today. Is corporate governance driven by the private sectors, the corporate or the government, or all of us in this room that drive corporate governance of the changes that we are talking about? It is the society that defines what is a norm or what is appropriate. I'll pass to you. What does corporate governance mean to the main industry? What is the journey of corporate governance, particularly in HSBC context as a leader in the space and highly regulated business cost of banking? The footprint you have means you have a number of different jurisdictions that you operated in. Is it enough to do what your regulators want? Is it what drives HSBC, or is it something far more than that?
Thank you, moderator. It is a pleasure to be here today. Let's go back in time and understand where it comes from. It has been around for a long time, but was popularized in the 1970s through Penn Central Railway, which actually is a very successful railroad company in the United States in the 1916s. In the 1970s, it diversified what it was doing and went bankrupt. This is the first time that the board of directors directly implicated in the aftermath of it. Historically, corporate governance was saying that shareholders who delegate responsibilities to board of directors who negotiate with executives to run business, and there are three aspects, which are shareholders, board of directors, and management. Corporate governance is ensuring an arm's length relationship between the three to make sure agency issues are done effectively by management. So regulators are very important.
I want to add some more about HSBC. HSBC also complies with BNM, also HMKA, PRA, and they take the best of what those three say. Where does HSBC conscience come from? It is actually not from the regulator, but from the purpose of the organization, HSBC purpose. It comes from the expectation of our employees, customers, and advocate groups. This is how our corporate governance is built.
Thank you. There is clearly an interesting piece there. The governance, there are all the role of the boss, the role of the shareholder. We will go to the next question. What are your thoughts regarding board composition, governance, and your thought on the role of the society expectation on the driving governance change?
If you look at a company like General Electric, the tone for corporate governance is set at the top. Every company has their corporate governance statement, and the corporate governance statement of General Electric is probably not different from what you see in many listed companies here. It is about the application. All the statements about board composition, how board operates, how different various committees operate, but it permeates right through the company. Every single employee has to go through when they come on board. 2.5 years ago, I, myself, need to take a test on corporate governance and compliance. How you deal with government officials, suppliers, and there are no excuses. You need to answer every question correctly or keep doing it again and again. It is taken seriously in its application. There is no exception in things like tendering.
Yes, that's right. There's no exception in things like tendering. We would walk away if there was anything that was not going right or was not done correctly. Sometimes it puts us at disadvantage if you are dealing with companies from other countries that have different standards of integrity and compliances. But at the end of the day, it is really how the tone is set at the top. Now we talk about board compositions. It is certainly an aspect that needs to be looked at.
A lot of time in large corporations in the US and also MNC, the shareholder structure is very different from what you see in Malaysia. Typically, you will have any single shareholder holding more than 5% or 10% at most. For instance, if we take a look at GE's largest single shareholder has 7% and the next one is 5%. In Malaysia, 16% of companies listed on Bursa are actually government controlled. Some of the larger non-government companies have many individual shareholders who control those companies.
Let's get on to how the board of directors gets appointed. It is either government appointees or the individual controlling shareholder or so-called independent directors. Board composition is important to look at what the skills are required rather than who knows who. You need to have a board of directors to be aware of technology and what's happening around the world. Every company has the potential of disruptions regardless of any industry you are in.
I agree. That's why we need to have directors who are able to give input and get the views of how companies talk about the strategy plans, not just relying on the CEO. Disruption is going to come, and if you're not able to see what is coming, you have the whole business go out of the window. For example, there is a Kodak. Kodak is a company that invented digital cameras, but they did not want to disrupt the film business. But where is Kodak now? Kodak now is gone. Yeah, that's all from me.
YB, do you have any more opinions on this?
My opinion, GE, HSBC, Bursa has a different set of governance. Perhaps fit for purpose, maybe the basic fundamentals has to remain. It all goes back to people, what they want to see, what benefits them. And I, as a minister, hear a lot of feedback from the masses that we are called as elected representatives. For me personally, to be part of administration, I can see many things that we can do better. We are trying to institute governance SOPs and so on. We formulate those based on behavior of people, the values we want to promote, and those values allow different people to congregate to set up certain standards of operating procedures to make sure things are done in the proper manner that fulfill the aspiration of what people want. And that's why different countries achieve different achievements. Different sets of values try to congregate to fulfill the operation of the country in particular.
Yes, I agree with YB Medania. There are intelligent people that carry good values, but why does the government not follow the good values? Why are there breaches in operating procedure? Why do they resort to corrupt practices? When we identify people, we see their values on the surface. The outcome or the impact will become when you have organizations like Bank Rakyat. It's congregations of different peoples or perhaps a different set of values. We try to bring them to the same level and same platform based on what we want.
So, we have to get the right people to get the right job, and then you measure the impact. If you do not get these people that presumably have got values to carry out the task that has been entrusted by the government as policymakers, then you can see what we have seen. Fundamentally, governance comes from people. We will identify the right people. We have the right values and let these people formulate SOPs that can fit a certain environment in the case of your association, organization, and General Electric as well as Bursa. I am pleased to note today that Bank Rakyat is initiating this effort to bring awareness to people how important governance is to be followed. Thank you.
It's a very important shift, so I don't think the following is a good statistic that in the banking sector in Malaysia, I'm still the youngest CEO and it's a big thing for me to deal with. We have to recognize over the last 40 years the people who were successful in the banking sector, and I have argued in any commercial sector where people who focus on the bottom line and the people who are going to be successful over the next 40 years. Other people are going to focus on the triple bottom line, which is not just economic prosperity of profits, but people and planet.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Nadira. So actually, when we were talking about corporate governance, looking after the shareholder board of directors and management, I was thinking about how they care about prosperity and profit, where is the societal and environmental representation in that. I think it doesn't exist. And it needs to exist. It is the mediation that the central bank is driving for Islamic banks. But actually, it is the agenda that everybody should be driving on.
True facts come from Ms. Farisha. We need to change the mindset, and the problem is the mindset that has prevailed across. Now seated you know in board and senior management positions of people report them, are all focused or have been brought up have been habitualized in this idea of maximizing profit without understanding who are the wider set of stakeholders in the communities we serve, in the environment we live in. We do not look at that.
Yes, I agree with Miss Alia. Heads off to the Madam Chairperson of Bank Rakyat. And as you know, I can say that it's to make such a clear statement of intent for the bank and represent something that's much further ahead that hasn't been reached. It is also very important we can't just represent the general sentiments of progress, which will get us to the average.
I agree that we need individuals to stand out as a cross caricature. Then people need to embody those progressive practices and those protectorate progressive positions with all of the decisions. Making a structure from the board, the shareholders, the management, and their reports who are delegating responsibilities to execute. And I think that fundamental is a fundamental shift that can be encouraged.
I'm interested the bank go on this journey where potentially some decision you are going to be making short term for your profile, but then again, they are driven by investors who could be perhaps perceived as an investor in HSBC PLC. Are they a proxy for society and society's value?
I think this is important. We are got to get away from the conversation that sustainability is a long-term play. It's objectively not. So for example, if someone has issues in the international markets in hard currencies, a capital markets issuance where they are able to issue a green issuance and get more investors effectively, their pricing becomes better.
Thank you for the view. Now we will go to the next question. What can the government do to improve our governance if they are selected?
When I was appointed as a minister, Dr. Mahathir said no political appointees. Let's have a professional qualification, so there are people that have professional qualifications in politics. I agree with you. So what do we do? You cannot put away your professionalism or people that can run an organization, for example, like he is a member of a party. And then we talk about how to manage the situation. One of the things that is not written as a rule as yet is that people holding top political positions should not hold any position in GLC or GLIC.
Yeah, for example, in the case of Bank Rakyat, they got criticism from people who says why do they have a highly trained people to hold as a chairman in Bank Rakyat. It is difficult situations to manage because you have different opinions. But at the end of the day, it is a team that is managed by a leader. A leader may come from the government sector or private sector. Um, Again, we must understand what the shareholders and stakeholders want. And I'm quite happy to see that Bank Rakyat has moved towards destructions. And I must say, there's no political appointees, and they got people from different background and qualifications representing the stakeholders. Bank Rakyat is a cooperative, and they get people from different sectors of the industry and try to put balance and gel this governance among themselves to deliver what they are supposed to deliver to the stakeholders.
I genuinely believe that politicians are best placed to know what to do in terms of government and policy. With regard to what I think has been just generally good practice, what the Central Bank of Malaysia has done, and it's important to call that out, not just because I'm a CEO of banks that happen to be regulated by the Central Bank. This is very important. There are two countries in Asia that have a majority of independent boards in banking, which is Australia and Malaysia. The Central Bank of Malaysia has been extremely open in terms of taking lots of best practice, including the idea of putting majority independence in the chairpersons.
Now, coming back to the rankings, I think that's a whole different question. And let's take Maggie for an example. All of us seem to know when something is overcooked, right? Especially Maggie. You always know when you have left it in too long. The question is when we look at niches, we look at development, and developing, we don't look at overdeveloped. And overdeveloped countries are countries that perhaps lost a bit of their soul and their happiness. And I think Malaysia hasn't, and I don't think it should.
In addition, when we talk about rankings, we want to rank ourselves with cultural values, and that is around kindness and about having a happy life. Yes, we should go in ranking where there are better things that could be done that would benefit, but at the same time, we cannot just hold ourselves to getting number one spot when we go to overcook Makerspace.
As we talk about embedding good governance, about 6 months ago, it is very similar forum and mainly PLC director and the chairman of one of the PLC made the comments that corporate governance is overcooked and it's actually impeding the ability to make profits. Frankly, I don't agree with that. In my mind, you have governance and take the public's money, so you have to follow to it. But there was this push, and this perhaps touches on the idea of the significant minorities, influence overboard, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
It's very important when you deal with the public's money. We are not talking about people with tons of excess cash. When we talk about those people's money, we have to treat it with the utmost respect and prudence, and that is what good governance is for. We need to respect the fact that people have their own responsibilities, that most of them are using cash. That's my opinion.
Yes, that's true. We have to put that into decision makers and be clear that they wake up with that every day. There's a separate point to enabling private capital to bring innovation to new sectors and being a bit lighter on that. That is a very different point, but what we should never do is paint it with too much brush that there is too much governance or this is not enough governance. I think we need to have specific conversations framing the context clearly.
My favorite saying is just because you can doesn't mean you should do it, but it is appropriate and it is consistent with your values. I think when we look back on the governance and structures of governments, why must it be our value systems? I mean, I'm sure we talk about it a lot, but it's getting back to behaving ethically and appropriately. We can put structure around them, but as society is now saying we need this, and now we support it by various initiatives of the government. Why do you think so?
If I am an investor, I come to you. I want to put money in. Overall, we are ranked number 4. How do you tell me? In the context of governance, this is the company that you should be looking at. So, the actual ranking is undertaken by a third party. Now, what our driving force to do is educate. As an investor, we empower you to ask the right questions and understand the answer you are given. On the other side of the coin, we are encouraging and providing the necessary information so that you can answer the question you wish to ask. We will not say good or bad. That is not wrong. What we do now is empower the investor to be institutional and be individual.
Alright, I understand it clearly. Thank you to all our panel for sharing their thoughts. Thank you to our audience too for lending their ears and eyes for our forum today.